make a move in the ring. You can hit me with the words you fling.
Post-fight podcast is back. I'm Nick Atkin. I'm with John Hyon. We're going to break down UFC Fight Night, Kattar versus Ige, UFC Fight Island 1, whatever you want to call it. John, overall, I thought pretty good show. A lot of great finishes, especially on the prelims, but main card, little bit less so. But let's start with that main event. Unanimous decision for Calvin Kattar over Dan Ige. It was pretty conclusive, wasn't it? I don't think you can argue with it.
No, you can't argue with that decision. Calvin Kattar came in and did what he does best. You know, he just stuck from range and used his boxing and I kind of showed a little bit more of his kicks. You know, he used the front kick to the face a little bit, and I thought overall his performance was great. He showed that he has the cardio to go all 25 rounds and win a decision. And like I said in the preview show, Dan Ige is one tough guy, man, and you're not going to be able to put him away. And he had his moments early in the fight. He hurt Calvin Kattar. It looked like he broke his nose early I believe in the second round or so, or the first round. And Ige, Kattar, he came in as the favorite, and he showed why he's the favorite with this performance. But Dan Ige, I feel like he also was a winner in this fight. You know, he was in his first main event, very entertaining fight. He stuck around for the whole fight. He was never too badly hurt. You know what I mean? A couple times it looked like he was in trouble, but nothing too serious. And he has a bright future, man. I think that he's going to be sticking around the top 10 for a while, and he's going to give a lot of guys problems in the future, especially guys in the top 10, top 15. I like this. This fight was fun to watch, and it just showed you how deep that division is. And whoever's the champion, man, it's going to be problems for everybody, man. Calvin Kattar, what do you see him, in the future? Like, do you see someone that he could face next? Do you feel like there's a good matchup? I feel like they need to give him somebody in that top 5 or at least ahead of him.
Let's try and bring up the rankings here. One sec. I don't know. You tell me. Yeah, it's pretty stacked there, isn't it? There's no clear cut, I think, solution.
I already know. I don't even have to look at the rankings. I already know who he should fight next. He's number 6, right?
Yeah, wasn't he going to fight Frankie Edgar and then? Yeah,
Frank Edgar is not even a featherweight anymore. He shouldn't even be in the rankings.
Yeah, why is he in the rankings?
Yeah, exactly. Like, they need to take him out, but it doesn't even matter. Like, he doesn't exist in the rankings in my eyes. Calvin Kattar should fight Max Holloway next. Max Holloway is coming off back-to-back losses. He just fought the week before, or a couple days ago, not even the week before, a couple days ago. And stylistically, I think that that's a good matchup. It gives Kattar an opportunity to fight a guy that is at the top of the division, a former champion, and also gives Holloway a chance to prove that, he's still one of the best in the division by knocking off one of the guys that are coming up and trying to take his spot. So they need to make that someplace, somewhere, probably Fight Island. They said September, December that they're going to go back, both months possibly. And why not bring him back in December and headline one of the cards, a fight night or something, and see what happens. I think that is a great matchup for him. Or even, put him against Brian Ortega. That wouldn't be that bad of a matchup, So
it looks like Ortega's going to get Zombie next, right? Well, if they do Ortega,
you think that's going to happen? You think that's going to happen, though?
You know the Korean Zombies, guys. What's going on there?
Oh, hey, bring in Chris. He's waiting.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, we're honored to be joined by
hello, guys.
Christopher Augustus. Okay. Midway through.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I had to get a coffee after the early start today.
Okay. Right. Well, we were just talking about who Calvin Kattar should fight next, and John was suggesting Max Holloway, but I was saying maybe Ortega's going to be tied up with Zombie. So yeah, it's either Holloway or Yair Rodriguez, maybe.
Yair has a beat, or has that been signed?
Exactly. Exactly. That's signed, sealed, and delivered. I feel like that fight is happening in September or late August. Yeah, late August. The Zombie and Ortega, they're going back and forth, but it looks like they're not going to fight, man. They're not. No one's signing the contract. Ortega does want the fight, but the Zombie doesn't seem like he wants it, and he's going after Volkanovski. And I feel like, man, make that fight. Make Volkanovski versus what is it? The Korean Zombie. Let Kattar fight Holloway or Ortega. I like both of those fights, in the next couple of months. What do you think, Chris? Who do you see Kattar fighting next, man? He's the real deal.
See, I'm feeling very sympathetic right now to Josh Emmett. He's not tied up. He hasn't got a dance partner. He's come off a win. He's got a fantastic record, won his last 3 in a row, and I think that would be actually a really good matchup, round about the similar level. And whoever would win that fight would jump at the losers of the Ortega-Yair fights, probably.
When you look at like Josh Emmett, the only problem with him is he just got out the surgery room a week ago with the knee surgery, so he'll probably be out for the next 6 to 8 months, and that sucks for him because he's in prime position. He's actually ahead of Kattar, I believe, in getting a top guy. I don't like Kattar fighting Emmett if that was a possibility, because both those guys haven't fought one of the guys that are kind of coming off a loss at the top of the division. I like to see those guys get an opportunity against like the Holloways, the Ortegas, and then maybe if they both win, they can fight each other eventually. But Emmett, I would like Emmett to fight Ortega if that's possible. You know what I mean? Like down the line, if he returns and he gets a top guy, Emmett would be perfect for Ortega. They were supposed to fight before. They were supposed to headline a show, but it never came through. Kattar, he's going to get the first shot at a top guy, and it's going to be fun to watch what he can do against Ortega or even a Korean Zombie or a Holloway, man. I'm excited to see what happens, but I am, like you are, sympathetic to Josh Emmett in all the situations that's happening with him.
Because you look at them ranked number 6 and number 7, you would have to assume whoever won out of those two would probably jump straight into the top 3. And then obviously we're going to have guys above them lose. So that would be a pretty good matchup. I don't know if Calvin Kattar has any damage from the fights today, if he's going to be out with surgery. It's hard to tell.
Trying to find a scorecard still, but 2 judges had it 49-46, 1 48-47. You think that's a bit generous for Ige, Chris?
Yeah, I do think it is a bit generous. I had it 4 rounds to 1 on my mental scorecard. Agreed.
Well, good performance from Ige, though. I mean, showed a lot of heart. What next for him? What do you think, Chris?
It's really, really hard to say in this division because there's so many moving pieces right now. But I think sometimes it is just about going back and getting a win and keeping the record good. So I think it's probably worth him going down. Has he fought Shane Burgos?
Perfect matchup.
Yeah. That's like what I would see as like a really good matchup. They'd be quite evenly matched, similar skills, and I think it'd be a good matchup.
All right.
I really agree.
What about this co-main event then? Tim Elliott, unanimous decision against Ryan Benoit. Decent fight, I thought. Let's bring up the scorecard. But John, run us through. What did you make of it?
I thought this fight was a lot closer than a unanimous decision. I think a lot of people on Twitter, they were saying that they thought Ryan Benoit won that fight because he did have it seemed like he had the best moments of the fight. He seemed like he was landing the harder shots. That knee bar that he had, right? Elliott looked like he was about to tap. His face was in grimace. He was grimacing and he barely got out of that submission. I don't understand how that was a unanimous decision for Elliott. And I even picked Elliott to win this fight too, but I'm just saying, like, I don't understand how, like, you get a unanimous decision. It's kind of a weird, the judges and today the referees were just, I don't even know what they're doing out there right now. It's very questionable, man. There's people, at least they got the Kattar fight right, but there's people with like their rankings and their records on the line coming to these fights, man, and these decisions could ruin some people's momentum that they create. And like, I feel like this Tim Elliott fight is a perfect example of that. Benoit was coming off a loss too, in a close decision a split decision to Alatang in Busan, and he comes in here and he looked like he won the fight, and he gets a unanimous decision against him. I feel bad for him, really bad. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I thought it was a really, really tough decision. I mean, I don't want to go into the scoring again. We went into it on the weekend, but to me, it's really, really tough because you do have to say probably Elliot did win it 2-1, but then at the same time, Benoit probably did a lot more damage. Elliot looked a lot more cut up and beat up at the end of it. And obviously, I think at the stats looking at them, Elliot got more strikes in total, but Benoit had gone for the head over and over and over again. So it's really, really hard to judge. I mean, this is one of those fights you could say was pretty much a draw.
Well, the judges all had it 29-28. At least they agreed on something. Yeah, I can see where the complaints come from. But, I mean, do you think, John, as a co-main event, this was, living up to the billing? I know we had a match cancelled, I think. Was it going to be Frankie was going to co-main here?
Yeah, I believe so. I don't even remember who the co-main
so many people dropping out with coronavirus. It's hard to keep track.
Exactly.
I think it was going to be
stepping
Frankie
in on 1 week's notice, and there's all kinds of craziness. So it's hard to keep track. The co-main event should have been the what was it, Al Hassan versus was it Lazez? But that should have been the co-main event. That was an awesome fight right there.
That was an absolutely fantastic fight, and I mean, luckily. I had a big hunch on Lazez, so I had some of my friends put some bets on for me back in the UK because he fought a friend of the podcast, Sasha Platnikov. What was that, a year ago? 9 months ago now?
September, October or something?
Yeah, around about that time. Yeah. So he had some crazy odds on some of the betting sites at 3-1, and I think he absolutely schooled Al Hassan in this fight. I had it all 3 rounds to Lazez.
Yeah, let's talk about that one. Unanimous decision for Lazez. I'll try and bring up the scorecard. But yeah, as you said, Chris, he did beat Sasha, UAE Warriors. He's got a bit of a reputation out in that part. I think that's how he probably helped him get on that card. But yeah, John, we were talking about it yesterday. It was a bit of it's a fun story how he actually came to UFC's attention, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is a fun story. Just a highlight reel. Somebody showed Dana White the highlight reel and he gets signed off that. But man, this fight was fun because, Munir, he came out and put his back against the fence and just took the barrage in the first round from Al Hassan, right? And I thought he was going to get knocked out. I was like, what are you doing? I was like, look at the screen, like, what are you doing? What are you just sitting there taking punches? But man, that guy has a chin on him and took all the shots and then just came back and won the rest of the rounds. It's kind of weird. Like some of the judges gave it 30-27 to Munir, but I don't know about that. I felt like the first round, Al Hassan won that fight. He did get that takedown, Munir, at the end of the round, but takedowns don't mean anything unless you do something. And there were some weird moments in this fight. What did you think, Chris, about the ref standing up the fighters, like especially when Munir was in side control?
Yeah, it seemed really, really odd to me, and the ref seemed to stand up totally out of nowhere, without much warning as well. That's the issue I have. I think if he gives warning and tells them to advance or do something, then you can stand them up. But when you just do it really without warning and there's not really an explanation, it is an issue we have sometimes. But apart from that, fantastic fight. And I really see big things from Munir.
Yeah, I think they're going to put him against somebody. Yeah, he called out Mike Perry after the fight in the post-fight interview. And I don't think that fight's going to happen because Mike Perry's got a whole cart full of problems in his world. So I say, put him again. I think they're going to fast track him, though. They know his potential and they know he's exciting. And he just took out Al Hassan, which this guy is very dangerous, man. And he took all the punches and performed well against him. They're going to fast track him. They're going to put him against some high-flying striker. I don't feel like they're going to put him against no wrestler. But whoever he fights next, I look at Michel Pereira. I always think of Michel Pereira as someone that could fight any striker, and it'll be a fun fight. I think this one will be fun if Munir takes on Michel next. What do you think about Al Hassan, man? What do you think they should do with him? He missed weight. He lost a bad decision. What do you think they should do, Chris?
I think he just needs to fight lower caliber guys. I mean, this guy Munir is obviously a high talent. and I wouldn't be surprised within 12 months from now if he's right there in the rankings. I mean, he seems to be that kind of caliber of fighter, and I think he's going to have loads of opportunity on this side of the world, in the Middle East, because it looks like we're going to be back to Fight Island every couple of months at the moment. So I think he's going to have huge opportunities. He speaks Arabic, so that's a huge plus. With Al Hassan, I think it's probably best to give him someone coming up through the division. That's what I'd do.
Well, it was fight of the night, but Al Hassan didn't get his cut because he missed weight. So, yeah, but good for Munir. We should mention performances of the night. Laron Murphy, Khamzat Chimaev, and Modestas Bukauskas. Yeah, we might get to them in a minute. But there are a couple more fights on that main card. Weren't there? Why don't we take a look at that? We skipped over it, didn't we? Jimmy Rivera, Cody Stamann, unanimous decision. All for Jimmy. It was pretty dominant, wasn't it? What did you make of it, John? I mean, Cody really took a heavy loss there in terms of it just wasn't, the performance wasn't there, was it?
No. Cody, I guess you should not fight, back to back. I think Chris has said this multiple times. Like, he doesn't like fighters fighting so quickly after, a fight. And that's what Cody did, man. I think he fought like less than a month ago and he came in and I actually picked Cody to win this fight. Stylistically, I thought Cody had the skills to beat Jimmy, but man, Jimmy surprised me, and he really needed this win. He was coming off back-to-back losses, even though it was to Sterling and Hyon, but still, man, like, you can't lose 3 in a row in the UFC. You know what I mean? And he came in here and he outclassed Cody Stamann. Like, Cody Stamann didn't really do anything to Jimmy. Jimmy was out there landing the harder shots, defended well against the wrestling, and won this clearly, man. Cody, man, he took a chance and to fight a guy that's higher in the rankings, and he lost. And so, but I see Cody coming back. I mean, he's a guy that's tenacious, and he'll return and beat a couple more guys in a row and get another shot at a top guy. But yeah, Jimmy, like, where does Jimmy go from here? That's the question, man. He's got a good win against a ranked guy. Who does he fight next, Chris?
Oh, this is a really, really hard one. Because he is just outside the rankings, isn't he, Jimmy Rivera?
No, I think he's like number 7 or something like that.
Number 7? Oh, wow. Oh, because he was fighting up a weight class, wasn't he, today?
Yeah, they both.
So we're going to assume he's going to go back down. It's really, really hard because he's just been around in the division so long and he's such a stalwart of the division. He seems to have fought everyone. And I think probably his best place is just to keep fighting for position. I don't really see him going really to the top. I think he's an exciting fighter. But to me, he's just always going to be that kind of gatekeeper figure. So I think probably best to find someone really coming up. Maybe even... Has Sean O'Malley got a fight made?
Yeah, he's fighting Marlon Vera in a couple weeks.
Oof, that's a tough one. Jimmy Rivera could go for Song Yadong. Big up China. We are the South China border toast, I guess.
That's actually a good idea. That's a good matchup right there.
Yeah, give Song Yadong a good challenge, really see his level. I mean, his last 2 fights have been borderline decisions anyway. So maybe him versus Jimmy Rivera would be good. Good stand-up fight. And we'd either see if Song Yadong has the ability to go anywhere, and we'd see if Jimmy Rivera has the ability to be that gatekeeper figure who keeps people out of the top elite.
Yeah, obviously Cody Stamann as well was dealing with that personal tragedy last time, and he got the win there, didn't he? But maybe some of that grieving has taken its toll after that fight, and it is a quick turnaround, wasn't it? Only 1 month. I mean, John, it must still be hard for him to deal with that. Surely you take a bit of time off.
Yeah. I think the grieving didn't hit him until after that last fight, because if you notice in the post-fight interview, man, he really broke down. Maybe it was the effects of that. It could be possible, man. And he wasn't training right, but he just took the fight because the UFC offered it to him. It's a big name, and he went in there and tried to take it, capitalize. I feel like Cody Stamann could rematch Song Yadong since they did the draw. Why not put that together? Give them an opportunity to each other. And either way, Jimmy Rivera versus Song Yadong, Cody Stamann versus Song Yadong. I like both matchups. I don't see why they can't do that. What is the status of Song Yadong? Is he ready to fight? Is he training? I don't know. I don't know what he's doing. Maybe he's back in China. I don't think he's back in China, right?
I got no clue. I think he's in alpha male, right?
I think he's an alpha male.
Okay.
Also, I can't remember. I added it up a few days ago. I think since the coronavirus hit, we've had 5 fighters who've all fought within 2 months, who've been coming off a win on the first one and fought on the second one. And so far now, every single one has lost.
Okay, that's a good statistic.
And Chris, yeah.
Well, it might be more, but I've been able to count at least 5 where they've won the first one and lost the second one. So this short turnaround does not seem to be working, but we'll find out, because it seems to be everyone seems to be up for a short turnaround right now, from like Rosenstrike, O'Malley. So it's one of them you have to play really carefully with.
It feels like the fight's there, right?
Statman Chris, that's his new name.
John, is that just because there are more opportunities now, and then fighters probably would be doing this before a pandemic if they were offered fights this frequently? It's a good chance to get some money, isn't it?
It is. I think fighters would do it no matter what, if they're ready, and also they're letting you fight one weight class above your original weight class. It doesn't really have too much of an impact on the rankings if you're ranked, because if you lose, you just lose. You're not fighting in your weight. I think guys will do it. I think this is not something that people are just taking advantage of like certain situations. It's just, this is the situation, and you just got to take fights when you can take them, and you don't know. They're just sliding in, and I don't understand why they just don't sign more guys too, man. Like it boggles my mind. Like,
spending all the money on the corona tests,
Yeah,
that's
Chris just said it.
Stuff.
5 guys fought, quick turnarounds. They all lost. So it shows you a pattern, right? If you're a numbers guy, if you're Rain Man, if you're, one of those guys, if you're a Moneyball, that's stuff that you look at, right? And I guess people are going to start looking at that and say, oh, maybe I might not want to return so quick. It all depends on the matchup. So we'll see what happens. I think they're going to still take fights with quick turnarounds. I don't think they.
What about this one? The final fight we haven't talked about on the main card, Taylor Santos. Another unanimous decision of Molly McCann. Chris, we'll start with you. I think she's one of your mob, isn't she, from Liverpool?
Yeah,
is that right?
top Liverpool. And I actually had Molly to win this. I think she's been performing fantastic. Her training camp, according to all of her social media, seems to have gone well. And I think there was just a skill level difference here. I think Talia Santos just looked bigger, stronger. Whoever she's been fighting in Brazil has been of the higher caliber, but because to me it really looked like there was a really big skill gap. This looks like someone who's on course for a top 5, top 10 ranking against someone who will probably fall out the rankings now.
Yeah, John, what do you think? That is a bit of a setback, isn't it, for McCann? She had been doing quite well. She had been on the rise a little bit.
Major setback. She just got into the rankings at number 15. Yeah. She's riding a 3-fight win streak, and they give her Santos. Santos was coming off a split decision loss in her UFC debut where she performed terribly, and she came out here in this fight totally different. Like, I didn't even understand what happened to her in her first fight. Then she must have been injured. Something must have been wrong, because man, she came out here and put pretty much what they say, is that she beat the brakes off Molly McCann. She outlasted her, in every position. And Molly McCann looked really frustrated throughout this fight. You could see it in her face, man. She was getting pieced up on the feet. When it got to the ground, she was getting dominated. She really needs to go back to the drawing board and see what she can change or tweak to her preparations to kind of get into that top 15 again. But man, Santos looks like she's the real deal, man. I'm interested to see what she can do next with the better
Chris,
like competition.
What do you think? Someone had a 10-8 round there for Santos in that second round. All 3 judges two of them gave 30-27. There was one 30-26. You think that's fair, or is that not an exaggeration of how dominant Santos was?
I would have gave it 3-1. I think they were all quite clear wins, but I don't think any of them were dominant enough to warrant a 10-8. And my heart really does go out to Molly because she's such a bubbly, great personality. And she's coming into this saying she wants to be the first English woman to get a finish in the UFC. Unfortunately, that's not happened for her, so it's a bit of a setback. I mean, anyone out there who's supporting UK MMA, at least we did go 3-2 for the night, 3 wins to 2. So it's not too bad a night.
All right. Well, how about this prelims? We have to maybe talk about. You did give me fair warning, John. You told everyone to watch out for this guy, Khamzat Chimaev, if I pronounced that correctly, coming out of Sweden, beating John Phillips from Wales. A very, very good performance. Submission, Darce choke in the second round. He spent the whole of the first round, didn't he? That was a clear 10-8. Have you ever seen one? He looks like he's going to be around. He's going to be a danger, isn't he? Now he's 7-0. That was his UFC debut, I think. Going to be one to watch out for, John.
Yeah, definitely going to be someone that you're going to keep your eye out for. And he said, I think after the fight that he wants to fight. He wants to do what we just talked about, what not to do, but he wants to do it which is return quickly and fight again. But going back to the performance, I thought this fight was going to be more of a stand-up battle. Like they were going to go like rock'em sock'em robots, but it wasn't, man. This guy came in with the game plan, executed it perfectly. And then, second round comes around. He gets that Darce choke and it's over, man. John Phillips was never in this fight. It was pretty shocking. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I think it was shocking for Tom Phillips. He's a fantastic fighter. But obviously the skill level wasn't there. Chimaev, absolutely fantastic performance. I didn't know much about him going into this, but wow, what an absolute domination performance. And I don't know if you guys catch this post-fight interview where he was actually saying he's a welterweight and he fights naturally at welterweight and he just came up to this division because he wants to fight in the UFC that much, and I like it. And he's got a bit of the Khabib thing going on, like the broken English, Swedish, Russian kind of going on. So he's got that intimidation behind him. And I just like the fact he's like, I'm going to stay in Abu Dhabi until the very last fight on Fight Island because if someone drops out, I'm going to be there.
Yeah, and you told me, John, he dropped Gustafsson in training. Is that right?
Yeah, with the body shot. You could see the video on Twitter, man. It's like people are sharing it and everything. So I guess he's the real deal. A side note on to like Fight Island, I was talking to somebody that's there right now, Volkanovski's coach, Frank Hickman, and he was telling me that, some people can't even leave the island because the flights that leave Abu Dhabi, they just don't go back to their original country. So some of them are staying like 2 weeks extra long in Abu Dhabi until a flight actually opens up for them, because the next flight that they were supposed to be on, it's all booked. And that's crazy because the island, I heard it kind of sucks there, man. Like,
did you
it's
see
a bubble.
Did you see Amanda Ribas was in the crowd today? They just panned to her sitting down in the arena. Yeah. I thought, why the hell is she still there? Because
the flights, man, they're not going out. It's not something that, like it is normally, there's flights going out every day, but right now it's just very limited. And I heard that people are going to have to stay very long after the fights or whenever they were supposed to leave. But some people are lucky, man. Peter Yan, he's already back in Russia. Volkanovski's already back in Australia. So some people are lucky, some people are not. I guess Ribas is not.
All right. There was some other cool finishes on this prelims. What about Lerone Murphy? Yeah, that was pretty impressive, wasn't it, Chris? Talk us through that one. TKO of Ricardo Ramos, who himself had a bit of a reputation there, but Murphy still unbeaten, up to 9-0.
Yeah, an absolutely fantastic fighter. It's been a long time since the UK has had someone coming out of Manchester representing absolutely fantastic kickbox skills. And after his previous result, he really needed this because I think he was coming off a draw, wasn't he, John?
Yeah, he was coming off a draw in Abu Dhabi.
Oh, yeah. So for him to get this result is fantastic. He's got a really bright future ahead of himself. Great fighting style as well. Really entertaining. It's really a shame because the whole Fight Island, 15 Brits fighting over the whole card, and it's just a shame we're not going to get any cards in the UK probably for a year.
Yeah. What about this then?
Modestus
Bukauskas. Yeah. You told me to watch out for him as well, didn't you, John? I think you said he's one of the Brits via Lithuania, but was he Cage Warriors?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Former
So
Cage Warriors.
he very impressive. Andreas Michailidis. Talk us through it. John, why don't we start with you?
A weird fight, right? If you watch, it was just weird. The guy Nicolaitis had him, pinned against the cage, trying to go for the takedown, and that old Josh Barnett, Travis Brown situation came along where the dude was just nailing elbows, and it's hard to determine like where those elbows were landing. You know what I mean? Was it the side of the head, behind the ear, the back of the head? But it was landing, and it was devastating. And then I think he was trying to get up and fall back against the cage, but the door was right there, and then they just had opened the door, so he just fell through the door, and then that's when the referee stopped the fight. It was just weird, man. That's why if you look at the result, it's retirement. I think that's when the ref just stops the fight. You know what I mean? And it was weird, but yeah, Bukauskas, he's known for his striking, and he proved it in this fight, and he looked like he has decent takedown defense too. But it's not the first time he's knock somebody out with elbows before. So yeah, he's a light heavyweight. Europe produces lots of great light heavyweights. If you've seen them, man, Vulcan, Yuri, Rakic, man, the list is long. Jimmy Manawa. There's so many great guys that fought in that division. He's just the young buck that's coming up, and I'm really excited to see what he can do, man. He seems like he has some popularity behind him too.
Yeah, definitely. Really popular fighter in the UK. Obviously, he's got that Lithuanian background, so he might be really, really popular there too. And just a fantastic fight. And me and John have touched on the point a few times. It's all about what time you join the UFC. And Bukauskas, I think he had 2 losses really on in his career. And then he went through Cage Warriors and won the belt. And then once he won the belt, he defended it just once and then opted to sign with the UFC when he was 25 years old, which is exactly what you want to do. And we always talk about in this sport, it's all about going professional and joining the UFC at the right time in your career. And if we're going to compare that to another fighter, one down on the card, the Chris Fishgold fight, who's from Liverpool, one of my favourite fighters, 28 years old, so he's not too much older. But what he did is he was dominant in Cage Warriors, but when he won that belt, I think he went on to defend it 4 times. Which, Conor defended both his belts only once. Most other people who you see leave Cage Warriors, they will win the belt and maybe only defend it once and then go to the UFC. But he spent maybe a bit too long in Cage Warriors defending the belt and getting those paychecks rather than moving up to the big time a little bit faster. And Bukauskas, fantastic. And I feel really sorry for Chris Fishgold. And good luck to him in his career. I hope he can renegotiate his contract, but I think it'll be very, very hard from this point for him.
Well, yeah, John, you want to give Jared a shout out, I bet, don't you? Flash Gordon.
Yeah, that fight played out exactly what most people thought how it would play out. These guys are like mirroring images of each other. Their skill sets, they kind of look like each other too. Shaved head and everything. It's just like Jared Gordon is just a little bit better than Chris Fishgold. That's all it is. That's why there was no finish. These guys can counter each other so well. I had a question for Chris. Like Fishgold, you're mentioning that he defended the title a bunch of times. Do you think there's a wear and tear is something that's an issue for him? Like his body, maybe his chin, and also he missed weight in this fight by 4 pounds.
He did miss weight, which is not to be rude, is a little bit unprofessional. And he is a good fighter, and he did do it very well on the regional scene. And I think if you look at, I've just got his Cage Warriors record up now, and he defended that belt 4 times in about 1 year, which obviously might mean he's doing it for the payday, but I am a firm believer in joining the UFC when you're on a tear, and it's good to go in and learn your craft there rather than getting put in with people who are obviously too good for you. And yeah, to anyone out there who's thinking of joining the UFC, I'd always say whether you're in Korea, UAE Warriors, anywhere. You should always take your time and try and go pro at the right time, or go to the top level. Sorry. And it was an interesting fight. Chris Fishgold gave his best, and I think what made it so interesting to me is that it was actually two guys pretty much in the same place in their career.
Yeah, apologies, I brought up the wrong scorecard briefly, but it should be there now.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. They all had it 30-26.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty dominant. Sorry, John. Yeah, I did interrupt you before. Did you want to say anything? I know you spoke to Jared Gordon before the fight.
Yeah, I just said what he said to me. You know, he said that he's just a little bit more polished, just a little bit better in every area of the fight, and that's what's going to happen. And this one is just going to be better, and that's what he showed. And it's sad to hear that afterwards, Jared Gordon's girlfriend, she had a miscarriage 2 weeks before the fight, and then a week after the miscarriage, she caught coronavirus. You know, that's terrible news, man. Like heading into a fight, and then when he got to Las Vegas, his coaches, all of them tested positive for coronavirus. So he had no coaches fly with him to Abu Dhabi. So basically, he had to have Eric Nixick and the commentator Paul Felder. He went into the corner and cornered Jared Gordon, which was kind of interesting. And Jared Gordon, man, he's been through so much in his life. It's just, you always want to root for guys like that, you know what I mean, that have gone through so much, and he went through a lot here. And also, he said that when he got to Abu Dhabi, he tested negative in Vegas, got to Abu Dhabi, tested positive, but the positive test was a false positive. Man, it must be hectic, man, for these fighters to be traveling all the way to Abu Dhabi with like tests, multiple tests, and then you get a positive test, so you think you're not going to be fighting, and then they come back and tell you it's a false positive, and you're negative, and you get tested again. Man, it's insane, man, what they have to go through just heading into these fights. So much respect to every single fighter, going to Fight Island or fighting anywhere basically in the UFC.
Well, let me just bring that up. I forgot about it actually. Yeah, Paul Felder going on cornering Jared Gordon. I think there's a little video here we could show from UFC's Twitter account. Yeah.
The best video is Paul Felder when Mohammed Bilal took that guy and dressed him up as a sheik, and then took him to Paul Felder's room, and then Mohammed told him to kiss his head. Have you guys seen that video?
No, I haven't seen that one.
Oh, you guys, that's so funny, man. He was about to kiss the dude's hand, but he wasn't a prince or nothing. He was just a guy that dressed up in the clothes, and it's funny. It's so funny.
It does make you think. I wonder if Paul Felder got a bonus for being in the winning corner tonight. I wonder if he got a percentage of the fighter's pay.
I hope so.
Who knows?
I hope so. Yeah. Maybe it was the good luck charm.
Yep.
Okay, there was one other fight, I think, if you want to mention it briefly.
Yeah. The UK's
yes,
most likely chance of a title challenger beside Darren Till, in my opinion. I think he's absolutely fantastic. Well, apart from Darren Till and Leon Edwards, probably, yeah. Jack Shaw, fantastic athlete from Abergavenny. Met him long time ago in a Polaris competition, actually, in Wales. Really nice guy, fantastic jiu-jitsu, trained by his dad. And every time I've seen him and everything he's done, he seems to be doing all the right steps and doing all the right things. He looks like a fantastic athlete going forward, and definitely one to keep the eye on. I mean, this is the problem, is that Jake Shaw will probably stay on prelims when we're out in Vegas and over here in Abu Dhabi. It is a shame that we don't have any cards in Europe or in the UK where he maybe could just squeak onto the main card.
Yeah. What did you make of his performance, John? Pretty impressive submission. Rear naked choke, second round. It's very impressive as a Brit myself. Chris alluded to, we don't have many capable of winning titles. This could be one guy to watch.
It's just vintage Jack Shore. If you've seen Jack Shore fight before, that's what he does. He gets guys to the ground, takes their back, and chokes them out. That's his MO, and I think that the UFC is starting to take notice of Jack Shore. He's still young, and of course he was a champion in Cage Warriors, but he's still young. You know, I feel like they could give him another another fight or two, facing guys that are, you know, like the lower mid tier, and build his confidence a little bit more. And then after that, he should be able to get someone like a Sean O'Malley. I would like to see him fight someone like a Sean O'Malley in the next year or so, after he gets a couple fights, one or two more fights. I think he's up at that level. He might not be as vocal. He might not be the guy that's out there talking trash, nothing like that. Because he's you know, you talk to him, he's just a nice guy. He's just a guy that trains and fights and is very talented. That's about it. And I don't think he's going to turn heel anytime soon. But one thing good about him is he does have a great facility. I think they have the best facility in Wales, MMA facility, Shore MMA. And he just started training with Brett Johns, who is another bantamweight contender, and who's fighting this weekend on the next card on Fight Island. And they train together day in and day out. And I feel like those two training together, they're going to be a force, man, in that division. And we're going to be watching out for Jack Shore. I'm big on Jack Shore too, man. I think that he has the talent. It's just like he needs to develop his striking a little bit better, because his wrestling and his submission game is great. I just want to see him be able to throw the hands a little bit better, harder, and man, become more complete of a fighter. And once he does that, man, he's going to be a handful for a lot of guys.
Sorry, there was one more fight. Another submission. Number Liana Jajua beat Diana Belbita. I hope I pronounced those right. Talk us through it, John. I missed this fight. I was asleep. The prelims started pretty early.
So basically what happened was Belbita, she's a striker, right? She's a former world champion, like Muay Thai specialist, Muay Thai champion. And she goes in there and clinches and then goes to the ground and then just gets armbarred. That's what basically happened, right? Her arm was twisting and turning in all different ways. It was pretty crazy. Did you see that, Chris?
Yeah, it was absolutely nasty.
Yeah, it was nasty. But yeah, I don't know, like that, the level of talent, you know, those girls are just pretty much at the bottom of that division. And that's basically it. They're at the bottom. They still need to develop, and Jajua getting that submission win is just basically what she does, is she gets submissions. And Belbita, she fell right into that trap. It's hard to say what's going to happen to either fighter, but I feel like they'll be on another deep prelim in the future sometime soon. I don't know against who, but we'll see what happens. We'll probably be talking about them in a couple months.
Do we see anyone from these prelims getting a ranked opponent anytime soon? In the next fight, or not really? There's no one close enough.
I could see LaRon Murphy, for some reason. I could see LaRon Murphy getting a ranked opponent in his next fight. The reason why I say that is because in his first fight, in his UFC debut, he got a pretty dangerous fighter, and he went to a draw with him, you know what I mean? And then he took on Ricardo Ramos, who's a guy that has been around the UFC for a long time and has big wins, and he took him out pretty easily on the ground with some vicious ground and pound. It seems like the UFC wants him to face the tougher guys, and it could be a ranked opportunity for him. One thing about LaRon Murphy, man, I've spoke to him a few times too. He'll say yes to anybody. So if they bring a guy that's super dangerous and maybe ranked, he'll sign that. It doesn't matter to him. So maybe LaRon Murphy.
I think Jack Shore is probably one away from a ranked opponent. And the only other one, Bukauskas coming in as a Cage Warriors champion. Why don't we have a little champion versus champion fight and have Bukauskas, former Cage Warriors, against the former Rising light heavyweight champion and Yuri Prokochka?
You could do that. You could, but
you could do that,
man,
you know.
That's jumping the line pretty deep for Bukauskas, right? But hey, I don't mind seeing that fight. Yeah, I don't mind seeing that fight.
Yeah.
You know what fight that I would like to see Bukauskas take that kind of makes sense, and he's ranked, as Johnny Walker. That would be a good fight. Johnny Walker's number 12 at light heavyweight. He's coming off 2 straight losses. Why not put Bukauskas against him? That would be a good matchup. Both those guys strike, and I would give the edge to Bukauskas, man, I don't know. Bukauskas is pretty good. He's pretty damn good. So Johnny Walker, he's kind of showed us that he's very limited when, you know, he's not breakdancing and moving around and letting the guy just, you know, the guy just stands still. Bukauskas, I don't see that happening. So maybe that's a good fight. But one thing is clear about this card is it showcased a lot of the UK talent, and which I really liked. I really liked that the UFC put a lot of UK guys on here, and a lot of guys did perform very well, and some of them won bonuses. And you know, Europe should be proud, man. A lot of these guys that won the bonus, they're from Europe, and it was fun to watch. Hopefully people take notice and follow these fighters and support them, man. That's the least they can do.
Yeah, I think a few stars were born, weren't they, tonight, guys? And I think weirdly, it's one of those cards where the prelims were probably a bit better than the main, definitely for me.
Hey guys, Sasha Platnikoff here, letting you know to tune in to SCMP post-fight for all your weekly martial arts news.